Underneath your feet, in total darkness, 10 sealed cells filled with nothing more exotic than salt water and manganese oxide are storing enough electricity to keep your low-draw devices running after the sun goes down. No lithium, no cobalt, no fire risk, and a lifespan that can beat a commercial lithium battery bank by years. A technology this cheap and this safe has been sitting in plain sight for over 200 years. That alone should make you suspicious of easy explanations. What's actually inside these cells? Why does burying them help? And why hasn't this become the default for off-grid backup? Let's get into it. If you like pulling apart claims like this and figuring out what actually holds up, consider subscribing. That's what this channel does. To understand where this battery comes from, go back to 1800. Alessandro Volta was stacking discs of zinc and copper, separated by brine-soaked cloth, in his workshop in Italy. Volta's pile was the first device in history to produce a steady, continuous electric current, using a simple exchange of ions between two metals in a salt solution. That principle didn't sit idle. Through the 1800s, wet cell batteries like Volta's powered the global telegraph network, running signal lines across continents decades before the electrical grid existed. In 1901, Thomas Edison took the design somewhere different, a rugged nickel-iron cell using an alkaline potassium hydroxide electrolyte instead of salt water. Edison's batteries were tough enough that some installed on early telegraph and railway systems were still working nearly 60 years later. His real contribution wasn't the chemistry. It was proof that a battery could be durable without being fragile. That's the idea modern saltwater cell designers eventually came back to. In the early 2000s, researchers working on grid-scale storage revisited the saltwater cell, this time with a manganese oxide cathode and a carbon composite anode suspended in a synthetic saltwater electrolyte. No flammable components, no toxic heavy metals, no risk of thermal runaway, the failure mode that makes lithium batteries catch fire. Off-grid builders later found that burying the cell bank underground did more than protect it from weather. It stabilized the entire environment the chemistry depends on. That stability comes from three things. First, electrochemical stability. Saltwater cells rely on ion exchange between electrodes, and that reaction is sensitive to temperature swings. Lithium batteries lose capacity in extreme cold and degrade faster in extreme heat. A saltwater cell buried 4 to 6 feet down sits in soil that stays within a narrow temperature range year-round, so it avoids most of that swing. Second, geothermal buffering. The surrounding Earth absorbs the small amount of heat generated during charging and discharging, cutting down the thermal stress that shortens the life of surface-mounted battery banks. Third, protection from oxygen and UV exposure. Saltwater cell housings and internal components degrade over time in sunlight and open air. And burial removes almost all of that exposure. That's a real part of why buried units tend to outlast their above-ground counterparts. Now, what this system can't do matters just as much. Saltwater batteries are safe, non-toxic, and long-lived, but they have low energy density and comparatively high internal resistance. A 10-cell DIY bank stores a modest amount of usable energy and delivers it slowly. It won't start a well pump, and it won't run a full-size refrigerator through the night. What it's genuinely good at is powering low, steady loads. LED lighting, small electronics, sensors, a Wi-Fi router, or trickle charging devices over several hours. Field data from small off-grid installations shows these banks holding onto a large share of their original capacity after thousands of charge cycles, which is a real advantage. But that longevity comes with a power ceiling lithium systems don't have. If you need to run high-draw appliances, this isn't the right tool, and no amount of burial changes the chemistry. So why isn't this sitting in every off-grid catalog next to the lithium walls? There's no conspiracy here, just a set of engineering trade-offs. Saltwater cell manufacturing at scale currently costs more per usable kilowatt hour than lithium iron phosphate, which has gotten dramatically cheaper over the past decade thanks to massive global production volume. Saltwater systems also need a lot more physical space to store the same energy a lithium pack delivers in a fraction of the footprint, which matters if you don't have room to dig or bury cabling. And because the power delivery rate is lower, saltwater banks require careful load planning that most homeowners would rather skip when a plug-and-play lithium wall unit is available instead. None of this is hidden from consumers. It's simply why lithium became the practical default for home backup. There's a legal and safety reality worth stating plainly, too. A DIY, uncertified battery bank buried in your yard and wired into your home's electrical system almost certainly violates National Electrical Code requirements around approved equipment, accessible disconnects, and enclosure standards. Buried electrical components are also genuinely harder to inspect, maintain, or repair if a seal fails or a connection corrodes. That's a real safety concern, not just paperwork. If you build something like this, keep it on a small, isolated, low-voltage circuit, not tied into your main panel, and run any grid-connected system past a licensed electrician and your local permitting office. If you still want to experiment, here's what a modest build looks like. A single saltwater cell, food-grade plastic housing, manganese oxide plates, a carbon composite electrode, costs roughly $80 to $150 in materials. So a full 10-cell bank runs $800 to $1,500. Bury the housing below the frost line in a waterproofed casing with a sealed, accessible hatch. Pair it with a charge controller rated for saltwater chemistry and feed it from a small solar array sized for a genuinely low-draw setup. Lighting and electronics, not appliances. Should you build one? If you want a safe, long-lasting way to keep lights, small electronics, and emergency communication running during an outage, and you're fine treating it as a supplemental low-voltage system rather than a full home backup, it's worth exploring. If your goal is running a refrigerator, a well pump, or anything with real surge demand, a properly installed lithium system is still the better call. Most of what this channel covers isn't suppressed technology. It's technology that got overlooked because it doesn't fit what people expect from a battery. The 10-cell underground saltwater battery won't replace your home's power system, but as a low-maintenance backup for the essentials, it's worth understanding. If that kind of breakdown is useful to you, subscribing and sharing helps keep this going. Next time, the everyday habits that keep letting pests into your home, no matter how clean you keep it.